when issues are not resolved, both parties feel it, and it can become really, really stressful on the relationship. And then we have the assertive communication. This is seen as the most healthy communication style. If you're following, please send in an emoji, just so I know we are all together. Great. Beautiful. Okay, so the assertive communicator is very, very great with expressing his or her thoughts. So they are able to express their thoughts, their feelings, their needs very clearly, while respecting the rights, the opinions, and feelings of others. Okay, so a lot of times you hear this person is very assertive, and most people misinterpret it to mean this person is blunt or this person is rude. That is not being assertive, actually. Being assertive means you are able to express yourself in a honest and respectful way. Your goal is not to hurt your partner or the person you're talking to. Your goal is to make them understand how you feel. So assertive communicators are very, very mindful of their feelings. They are very aware of their feelings. And at the same time, they are very aware of the feeling of their partner. And so they take it, they are very careful about the way they express their displeasure, and they go extra mile to ensure that the feelings of their partner is preserved while expressing their displeasure. So some of the characteristics of an assertive communicator I've mentioned generally: they are honest and respectful. They are calm and confident. They express their needs clearly. They don't talk as though, they don't just drop hints everywhere. They go straight to the point. They express their needs really clearly. Then they are able to take responsibility for feelings. They listen well. They know how to listen. They are not focused on just talking. And then they also focus on solving the problem, not just blaming people or saying whatever it is they feel they need to say. Okay, for the assertive communicator, they have the tendency to, of course, take their time, take cognizance of the feeling of the other person. They say things like, they use the I feel statement a lot, which is something I will still talk about later. And like I said, this is the most healthy, in fact, is the most healthy form of communication, style of communication. Yeah, but even though we may belong to this other part I mentioned earlier, yeah, whether we are passive aggressive or passive aggressive, we can actually become assertive, because communication is a learned behavior. The way we talk is something we picked from our environment, from our family, from our background, from our personality too. So we can actually also learn to become assertive, because this is the one thing that helps us to maintain a healthy communication in every relationship. Now, it's good to take note that every communication style leaves an emotional footprint. Passive communication leaves unspoken hurts, because you are not expressing yourself. You are not happy, but you are not saying it. Somehow you are expecting your partner to figure it out. Then there's aggressive communication, leaving emotional wounds. When you are too loud, you don't take cognizance of what your partner may be feeling. You just say things as they are. You tend to wound your partner emotionally. And then passive aggressive communication leaves confusion and distrust. You talk in ways that it's not so clear. So your partner is not very sure of what you are saying, and then they are confused at the end of the day. And then the assertive communication builds trust, it builds respect and emotional safety. And this is why everybody, both unmarried and married, if we are not there yet, we need to learn and devote time to becoming assertive. Well, let me just say that healthy marriages are not built by couples who avoid difficult conversations. We need to have those difficult conversations, but they are built by couples who have difficult conversations with honesty, respect, and love. Okay, so while we are trying to communicate, there are a lot of things that actually make it difficult to pass our message across. And we call these things communication barriers. Unfortunately, many people speak every day without truly communicating because somehow these barriers distort, they interrupt or completely block the communication we are trying to have. I want us to think of communication as a journey. You know, one partner sends a message. The message travels through words, tone, body language, emotions, past experiences, assumptions, and expectations before it gets to the other partner. Now, if any of this becomes distorted, the message arrives differently from how it was sent. And so you'll have a partner just trying to say, maybe give a compliment, oh, you look good. But then maybe the other partner had experienced a time where the compliment didn't land nicely. And so he or she would begin to feel, oh, maybe this is one of those times again, she's just mocking the way I look. And so something that is supposed to be a compliment now becomes another reason to fight or have a conflict. So I'll quickly run through some of these communication barriers. The first one I have here is assumptions. Now, assumptions, I know we know what it is. This occurs when we believe we already know what our partner is thinking or expecting without asking for clarifications. Like I mentioned earlier, some couples just expect that their partner should just know. Unfortunately, like I said, our partners are not mind readers. Yes. So if you are upset, it is better to tell your partner you are upset so that your partner wouldn't need to assume anything. So how can we overcome assumption? So instead of assuming, you want to be curious about what is really going on. So instead of assuming, you want to ask your partner, oh, what is really going on? Oh, how are you feeling? You know, so that way you begin to assume less and ask more questions. Another barrier is poor listening. Now, communication is incomplete without listening. Now, many people listen to reply rather than to understand what is being said before responding. So while your partner is speaking, you see them, they're already preparing their defense. Active listening requires giving your partner your full attention. These days, technology has made it really, really difficult. I think I still have that somewhere. Yeah. So how can we overcome that? You want to listen. Make sure you understand what your partner is saying. Seek clarification to be sure that is what your partner actually meant before responding. Because sometimes your partner may not even need any solution. They probably just need to be heard, to feel understood, to feel seen. So one thing we can do is actually just listen. And then the third barrier is defensiveness. Now, defensiveness happens when every concern is met with excuses, denial, or counter accusations. So instead of accepting feedback, the person immediately explains why they are not at fault. So your partner is telling you, hey, I felt hurt when you forgot our appointment. And then the response is, you too, you always forget things too. Now, I'm not the first person forgetting about our appointment. So that person becomes defensive. And so instead of trying to solve the problem, you begin to defend yourself. So how can we overcome this? We want to be able to pause before responding. Ask yourself, is there any truth in what my partner is saying? And then you want to be able to accept responsibility where necessary. Because accepting responsibility is not weakness. That is actually part of what we call emotional maturity. Professor Lutu mentioned that while she was speaking. And then there's criticism. Now, criticism attacks a person's character instead of addressing a specific behavior.